Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 235, and I am Lisa, also known as Fibernymph on Ravelry and Instagram. Today is Wednesday, March 15th. It's the Ides of March, so be careful, I guess. How are you? I am. It's been a week. Holy moly. We didn't get the snow that they were originally saying we were going to get yesterday. And I was a little bitter about that because I had planned my week around this massive snowstorm that was supposed to come in. And I organized things so that I could be up at the mountain house yesterday and not have to drive. And plus, the mountain house, we're up on the top of a ridge where everything is usually worse weather-wise than any place else. So I could just stay in and look at the snow from the porch room, and I had work I could do up there and have a fire in the fireplace, and it was going to be lovely, and it did nothing. We woke up yesterday morning to absolutely 0 inches of new snow. I was not happy, but I thought, okay, because we kept watching the forecast and they were still calling for all this snow, 8 to 12 inches, 8 to 12 inches. Well, the hourly forecast kept pushing it back until it didn't start to snow, I don't think, until close to lunchtime. At which point, I had been standing there all morning looking at the sky saying, we are not amused. I wanted my blizzard, okay? I just wanted one good snowstorm this winter. That's all I wanted, but no. So anyway, it did finally start to snow. We did get a few inches, and they downgraded us from, a weather advisor, or I don't know, a warning, the storm warning, just to a winter weather advisory. So we did end up with, I guess, 3 or 4 inches yesterday, and then a couple more overnight, and it's still supposed to be coming down a little bit today, which it was when I left. But it's also very windy today, so we will have a lot of blowing snow and drifting, and there are certain parts of our road up there that really drift over and get covered and are quite hazardous. So I waited until it was light out to come home here today, and then I will be waiting. Well, I will not be waiting. I will be leaving here in plenty of time to get up there before it gets dark, which isn't such a hard thing since we've changed the clocks now. It's not getting dark until like 7 now, so I've got time, but yeah, I really was disappointed. It was a very disappointing blizzard for me. I know other places got slammed a little harder, but I would have liked to have truly been snowed in my mountain house. But I guess you can't do much about that. So let's see. Last week when I talked to you, I had a cold. I remember saying that, and I didn't feel very good that day. Which, I realized a couple days earlier, I had thought, wow, I got through this whole winter without getting a cold or without getting sick. And I figured, oh, I jinxed myself there. Because the last time I was sick was last October. And I remember that because that was when we were in New Jersey on that canoe weekend that we went on. And I was sick as a dog. Like I had a horrible cold, and it rained, and I'm canoeing in the rain and the cold with a cold. It was miserable. But I haven't been sick since then, nothing outside of the sniffles or something here and there. So last week, Wednesday, I just didn't feel good. Plus, I had been working outside the weekend before. We were taking down trees, and I had been using a chainsaw, so my arms and upper back and everything had been a little bit sore. But usually that kind of sore for me goes away after a couple days. But by Wednesday afternoon, after I recorded, I still was feeling pretty crappy. And, by the time I got home Wednesday night, I was just like, I think I went to bed early that night. Actually, I could not get warm that night. I remember I was just freezing, and I thought, great, I'm getting the flu or something. And so Thursday morning I woke up and I felt terrible. I was achy all over, like every joint hurt. And so again, I'm thinking, fabulous, I'm getting the flu, or I have the flu, or whatever. But I was so sick that morning, not to my stomach, but just didn't feel good. I didn't take my medicine that I usually take in the morning, including a new medicine that I was only on for a little over a week at that point, which my GI had given me. I'm sorry if this is TMI, but it all relates to the story, because I've been re-diagnosed after 20 years, with Crohn's disease. Yes, that's a whole other story, and I'm not going to go into it. But suffice it to say, she gave me medication to treat this. Fine. So I've been taking it for a little over a week at that point. But I didn't take any medicine last Thursday morning just because I felt lousy. So as the day went on, I actually started to feel better. Okay. I wasn't as achy and I had more energy. And so I was working that day after I had taken like an hour's nap right after breakfast. Seriously. Because I got up with Bill. I was really tired and crabby and not crabby, but just crappy, felt crappy. You know, he left for work and I went back into bed for an hour. And when I woke up, I felt a little bit better, a little more human. So I came home here to this house and I was working Thursday. And as the day progressed, I felt better. So I thought, awesome. So then I got home that night and I was starting to wear down at that point, but I still felt better than I had in the morning. So when I went to bed that night, I took all my medicine as usual, including the new medicine. Friday morning, I woke up. I could barely get out of bed. I hurt so bad. Every joint in my body just felt like it was on fire. I was like shuffling around all bent over like a little old crippled person or something. I couldn't even eat that morning. It was too much effort. I sat down at the table and Bill gave me coffee and I was like holding my cup with two hands because I just felt so miserable. Like I couldn't, it was horrible. And so again, that morning, I didn't take my medicine. And again, you know, I finally got myself going and I got here so I could work during the day. And as the day progressed, I felt better. And finally, the light bulb clicked on, I guess. Light bulbs don't really click. They shouldn't click. But anyway, it clicked. There was probably some sort of a connection between this new medication I was on and how horrible I was feeling. So I started doing some reading about this medication online. And lo and behold, you know, any medication you get, they always have, here's the common side effects. Here's the uncommon side effects. Well, an uncommon side effect of this medication is extreme joint pain. I'm like, there we go. So I contacted my doctor because we've got this online system with my doctor's office. You can email your doctor. And I told her what had been going on and I didn't take the medicine, felt better. Took it, felt horrible. And about an hour later, she writes back. She's like, stop taking the medicine. It's like, already did that. So I'm off that medicine now, and I have felt fabulous ever since. And that cold symptoms even went away. I'm kind of thinking maybe they were sort of related also to the medication, because that can also be sort of one of the side effects. Weird, but anyway, it was just very strange because by Saturday morning, I felt like $1,000,000. I felt like my normal self, and all day Saturday, I helped Bill outside. I was like helping move these 75-pound, stones that we got to build this wall that we need to build. I was helping like using these digging tools, and we were tearing up asphalt and stuff in this wall. I mean, I felt fun, and I kept saying, I could not have done this yesterday. I could not have done this yesterday. Pretty much anything I did on Saturday, though, I could not have done the day before because I felt so terrible the day before. It was just amazing. I have never, that I can remember, ever had an adverse reaction or a side effect to a medication like that. I don't think I've ever had a side effect to a medication. At least nothing that dramatic. And the change between Friday and 24 hours later, Saturday, I guess once the medication got out of my system, was just incredible. So I was like loving life this weekend, and just seriously, it's like I felt like I had a new lease on life because I felt wonderful. Those few days, like from Wednesday through Friday, I wasn't even knitting. That's how horrible I felt. I feel crappy if I'm not knitting. Just gotta say. So there you have it. That's been my week. No snow and horrible drug-induced joint pain. Yay. And then today I was driving home and I realized none of my turn signals work. That's totally unrelated to either of those other things, but it's just like, seriously, can anything else weird happen? I have deduced that like a fuse is burned out in my car, so I found the fuse, checked, it is definitely burned out. I'll stop on my way home and get another one tonight and replace it, but it's just like one weird thing after another, seriously. Okay, I'm done with that. I realized that was all kind of 10%-y kind of stuff, but I just felt the need to share my week with you because it's been a crazy, crazy week. I'm drinking my pomegranate raspberry tea again today. Do you guys leave your tea bag in your tea while you drink it? I'm figuring that this is probably a huge, horrible tea etiquette no-no for people who are really, really into tea, but I always do. I almost always leave my tea bag in there, usually because I then put more water in and reheat it and like have part 2 of my tea, which is probably also horrifying to anybody who's really, really into tea, but I don't know. It seems like a good idea to me. By about the 3rd round, though, with the same tea bag, you're really just drinking water that has a bag floating in it. It doesn't taste like anything. Okay, let's get on with the show, shall we? Welcome. I should have said that first, I guess. If you've stuck with me through this first 10 minutes of craziness, I don't usually start out my podcasts with all this kind of stuff, but occasionally I do. Oh, the other weird thing. I took my rings off, my wedding rings, to shower this morning, and I forgot to put them back on. I feel naked. It's so weird not having them on. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's a little aside. Yeah, let's get to the knitting. If you're here, I'm very glad you're here, and thank you for listening to me babble. But I've got knitting to show you, so let's go. I have worked on the Mountain House winter socks for my husband. I didn't get a ton more done on this. Matter of fact, I think what I knit on it this morning is probably all I knitted on it since the last time you saw it, but I did get another repeat done, another color repeat. So we were green. Actually, I think I was up to the brown, so I finished this color repeat this morning, the striping repeat. So I have another full striping repeat to go, and then a green stripe and a brown stripe, and then at that point I will stop doing the ribbing on the sole part of the sock, and I'll just be doing it on the instep side. But these are for my husband, and this is my Mountain House Winter colorway on my bounce base. And here's the first sock, which you've seen already, and it still does not have a heel. I'm going to do both heels when I'm done with both socks. So it's coming along. Not much else to say about that. It's sock in progress. 3x2 ribbing, US 1 needle in my lovely Mountain House Winter project bag that Dennis so kindly gifted me. Okay, the next thing I spent time working on was that Noro vest that I'm just sort of making up as I go along. Here, I'm going to move my keyboard out of the way here. Let's see, you saw it last week. I had one of the fronts done up to the point where I was going to start doing the armhole decreases. So that's this one. This was the first one. And then the second one I had started, but I had not gotten up to the point where I was adding the second skein of yarn, which is a different colorway. I got to that this morning. So, true to form, Noro can be, I love knitting with Noro, but it can be a little frustrating sometimes because it never, ever, ever matches. You cannot expect anything from Noro yarn to match. So look at this, like these two balls, the bottom part down here is the same colorway. And I started at the same place, and then, right about here is, well, yeah, this was the second one. So right about here, it diverges into its own thing. This one, I actually had to wind off some at the beginning in order to get to that first color. And then I incorporated it up here. It's not really following the same pattern. I mean, the pink is there. This one over here, the second one, has all this gray in it. The first one did not have any. So go figure on that. Same color and everything, but whatever. It's Noro. Noro's crazy like that. Anyway, so I have now kind of faded in my, or melted, whatever. I'm using terminology from the Find Your Fade shawl. But to add the second colorway, since I only had 2 balls of that bottom colorway, which I don't remember which number it was. I think it was maybe 284. It's one of the tags I have on my desk. So that was what I used for the bottom. So then I was alternating a few times. The next skein, which I believe is color 40. This is Curry On, by the way, Noro Curry On, to add that second color. And you can see, I'm knitting this on a US 7. It is very, very loose. I mean, you can see through it. It will puff up a little bit once it's soaked. Noro normally does. But I'm fine with it being loose because I want it to be drapey. It's going to be a vest, hopefully. That's what I'm aiming for. But at any rate, I'm now at 16 inches on both of them. And so this is the point where I will start incorporating armhole decreases. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my fleece vests that I have that fit me really well, and I'm going to do some measuring and some numbering and the mathing and figure out how many decreases I need to do in order to do the armhole. And I think it'll be fine. I still haven't 100% figured out what I'm going to do for the neckline. It's just going to kind of be a crew kind of neck, not super high, but like down a little bit. So I'll be doing some neck decreases at some point too, but they won't be coinciding with the armhole decreases as they do whenever you're doing like a really low cut neckline. So yeah, I mean, it's going fine. I'm enjoying knitting it. Like I said, I love knitting with Noro. The fact that Noro's colors just, I mean, here we go again. Like here's two balls, same color, 40, I believe. They've got the same colors in them, but they're not going to fall anywhere near the same place. So once I get the fronts done on this, I'm still going to have some of this left over. So what I'm thinking I'll do, since I have 4 balls for the back, and 4 balls for the back, and that's this color, which is some other number, 276. This will be on the back. Very different colors than what's on the front, although I can see this gold. See that gold in there? There's some of that on the front too. So I mean, it'll all come together. But what I may do just to kind of tie the design together is use some of this leftover color that's going to be on the top to do a series of 3 of those stripes along kind of maybe my lower back area on this. I think that might look kind of neat. I don't want to do it up top at the same spot where it's, or well, I guess it's here, more like right under my armpits. I don't want to do it there. I'll do it down lower just because I want to mix things up. And I can do that because it's my vest. Oh, wow. Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. What ball is this, for goodness sake? 284. Did I really have... I wonder if I totally used the wrong color. No, I didn't, because it's the same colors. I must have had 3 of these. Huh. Interesting. Whatever. It's all good. So, yeah. I'm knitting it on US 7s. I think I said that already. It was my halfway point because I kept wanting to knit a sweater, but I couldn't figure out what sweater I wanted to knit. And so I decided... Well, I knew what sweater I wanted to knit, but I didn't have the yarn for it. So I decided it was too late in the year to even be thinking about a sweater, so I'm just going to knit a vest. But I couldn't decide on what vest I wanted to knit, and the one I wanted to knit, I wasn't sure I had the yarn for that, but I had all this other yarn, and it's like, I want to use what I have, so I'm just winging this vest, and that's how it's going. And it's funny, this is how much yarn I had left on the first front from the first ball. This is how much I had on the second one. So I'm glad I stopped after a 3-stripe little melting area, because there would have been no way I could have done another one on that second ball. So, okay, so that's what's happening with that. That's all I knit this week. I did crochet though. I've made a pretty good dent on my Granny Stripes blanket. It's up to 30 inches now, and I've started to incorporate some of the minis that I got in my personal mini swap that I did recently with some people from the group. What I've decided I'm going to do, because I think this will be kind of fun, is I'm going to use all 10 mini skeins each person sent me, but I'm going to use them all in a row. So like currently I'm using the ones that I got from Lisa, who is Frosted Cow. I believe that's her username. I'm pretty sure. So right now I'm going to have a big chunk of the blanket that will all be from Lisa. And so when I'm done with that chunk, I will show it to you just so you can see. I think it'll be kind of fun to do that. I'm finding that 10-gram minis get me about 2 rows, maybe a little bit more than 2 rows. And I'm okay with that as long as it's a highly variegated yarn. Like if it was a semi-solid or a tonal color, I probably would not want any more than 2 rows. And a lot of times the rows aren't like beginning to end. They're like they start in the middle and then you go to the end and then you do a full row and then maybe you get part of another row. So it equals out to be about 2 rows. But that's fine. Like anything more than that, I'm not going to have like big swaths of the same color. But the variegated ones, it's nice because you can't see that it's all the same yarn. It's broken up so much. Or like self-striping yarns, the way they end up playing out. It's okay. So I'm having fun with that still. I did take a picture of it this past weekend. I hadn't done this yet. I hadn't laid it out on our bed because I really originally did not plan for it to cover our bed. But just for fun, I wanted to see how big it was. And I wanted to be able to measure it, which I hadn't done in a little while. So I laid it across the top of across the foot of our bed, which is a queen size bed. And I was really surprised to see that it reaches from edge to edge of our bed. It doesn't go over the edges, like it doesn't drape over, but it's from edge to edge. And I think I had said I'd cast on approximately, I'm holding my arms out like you can see them, my wingspan's worth of chains. Like whenever I did that initial chain strand, excuse me, that it was that long wide. So I guess that's about right because I'm not actually sure what the width of a queen size bed is. I want to say it's somewhere around, I don't know what, it's somewhere in the 50-inch range. I know it's like 80 inches long. I don't remember how wide a queen size bed is. At any rate, I could conceivably put it on our bed. That's not my plan for it, but it'll be nice because if we do want like another layer on top or something, it'll be wide enough to cover both of us. So that's pretty cool. I'm very excited about that. But anyway, I do have a picture that I took when I had it spread out on the bed, and I will insert that here so you can see it because I did not bring it with me today to show you. It's up at the mountain house. But I'll put the picture in here and you can see it, and I'll bring it once I'm finished with all of the minis I got from Lisa. Okay. So that is all of the knitting and crochet and crafting that happened this week, which actually, considering the fact that I did hardly anything for 3 days while I wasn't feeling well, I think that's pretty good. But I also did do some spinning, which is very exciting. I was kind of on a spinning kick this week, to tell you the truth. I was here, what night was I here? Friday night. I didn't stay here Friday night, but I stayed through dinner just so I could hang out with my son because I hadn't been getting to spend time with him too much lately. So Friday, we got dinner. He picked dinner up on his way home from work, and we sat here and we watched a movie. He made me watch Spaceballs. I had never seen Spaceballs before. Oh my gosh, weird. I will not say weirdest movie ever because between him and Bill, they've had me watch some really weird movies, but it was a weird movie. Anyway, while we were watching that, after we ate, I decided I was going to ply the first 3 bobbins of that blue Briar Rose BFL that I've been working on for over a year now. I've had the first 3 bobbins done for a while. And I've just put off plying it because I knew it was going to be like a long time to ply. And it was. It took most of the movie. But here it is. And I'm pretty happy with it. It's very well balanced. It's not all twisty at all. I mean, even though this has just been twisted up, it did not twist much. It's very, I would say, it's fairly even. And I did not use my wraps per inch tool, but I'm guesstimating that once it's soaked and everything, it's probably going to be, I going to say probably around a worsted. I don't care as long as I get pretty much the same weight from the whole thing. Now, what was also interesting was I had these 3 bobbins, and all 3 bobbins were really fairly evenly full, I thought. But when I plied them, 1 bobbin ran out and the other 2 had a good amount of fiber left on them, or singles, not fiber. I was kind of surprised. Actually, I was very surprised at that because I figured they were going to be pretty close, but they weren't at all close. So I'm not sure what happened there. My only guess is that when I started this spinning project back at the beginning of last year, I spun that first bobbin and then I didn't spin it again for a while. And when I got back to it, like a couple of months at least, when I got back to it, all of a sudden the fiber wanted to be spun woolen, which is not my default spin at all. So I was letting the fiber spin woolen, and I'm just not sure if maybe that didn't make the difference, although you would think that spinning it woolen would make it puffier, and so I wouldn't be getting as much on the bobbin. So I should have 2 bobbins that didn't have as much as the first one, which was spun worsted, which is more compact. So that's really odd. I'm really not sure what to think about that because I honestly do not know which bobbin it was that ran out first. I don't have the bobbins marked. I feel like this project is going to take forever because there's so much of this blue fiber. But that's not all I spun this week. I at least got that plied, so I felt good about getting that plied. But I had already shown you this bobbin of the Fire, the BFL Tussa, that is going to be going to Wendy, who chose this as her prize back in January for the year in the life of a knitter. So she does not spin, so she asked me to spin it, and so I did. I spun the first half. I got the second half spun. Now clearly the first bobbin has a little more on it than the second bobbin. I think a little bit. I mean, I just split the braid. I didn't weigh them, so if there's any left on the other one, I will probably just wind it into a center pull ball and ply that from both ends. So Wendy, you are going to get a big skein and then a tiny little skein. But it's okay. I really like how it spun up. I love spinning this fiber, and I fractal spun this. So this is the first half was, you know, half of the fiber split into 4 strips and spun end to end, and then the second part of the fiber was just spun from one end to the other without splitting it. So when you ply it together, there's a nice melding of colors. So all I have to do is ply these, and that should get done pretty soon, and then I'll be able to get that fiber or that yarn out to Wendy, and then I can start on the prize fiber from this past month, from February, which was that really pretty tempted merino fiber. So anyway, set that over there. And that's not all the spinning. I started another spinning project. I don't remember what day it was. It was earlier this week. And I was here in the morning, and it must have been Monday because we were here Monday morning. I was just in the mood to spin. Now, I have my sidekick here. My Traveler is up at the mountain house, and the Traveler is what I usually spin my singles on, and then I'll use my sidekick to ply, unless I have like a big gradient or something, like a bullseye or a loop bullseye bump or something. I'll spin those, you know, on my sidekick because it's a nice big bobbin and I can get the whole thing on there. But what I had was a rainbow set that I got at Highlands on the Fly a couple years ago when I went to that, and it was from Heather from Highland Handmaids. And what she had done, and I don't even know that I realized this was what this was. This is what it looks like now. And here's the red. But it was a big fat braid of targhee fiber. I had to ask her because I didn't have a tag, and I had to text her this week and ask her what the fiber was, and she said it's targhee. She said she just couldn't remember if it was superwash or not, and I don't remember either from when I purchased it. But anyway, I was pretty sure it was targhee. I didn't realize it was six separate pieces, so it's kind of like when I do my Rainbow Riot spinning sets. I have like 6 1-ounce pieces of fiber, but she had hers all braided together. And her rainbow colors are a little bit different than mine, so that's kind of fun. But I love this because it just sort of looks like a big octopus or something. I don't know. But I got the red spun up. So yay, it's really pretty. And my plan is I'm going to spin each color end to end. I should be able to get at least 3 colors on one of these bobbins. I have not yet decided what I'm going to do. Clearly, I could Navajo ply this and, you know, maintain those long color repeats. My original thought was I would just leave it as singles and wind it off and then possibly fool it, which is what I, you know, like the felting it, make it kind of a little poofy. But if it does turn out that it's a superwash fiber, that wouldn't work. So I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see what the spirit moves me to do with this as I spin it. But so far I'm enjoying it. It's a very squishy, springy fiber. I'm not sure that I've ever spun Targhee before, to tell you the truth. And I'm really enjoying it. But look at that. I mean, it's got a lot of bounce to it. It's very elastic. So it's been a very enjoyable spin for what I've done with it so far. Okay, that is it. That's all of the knitting and crocheting and spinning. I'm pretty impressed with myself this week, if I do say so. Let's move on to the Knitalong, a year in the life of a knitter. Again, we're in March. It's mid-March, so you've still got the rest of this month to get through all of your winter stuff. Our season is winter. The themes are still warmth, coziness, and home. March, your yarn focus is DK weight, so if you want to use DK, now's a great time to use it. If you're doing the March challenge, which is the Go Green challenge, you will get extra entries into your prize drawing if you do use DK weight yarn or fiber. No, yarn. Fiber does not come in DK weight unless you spin it that way. Oh boy. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of the rules. Everything's online. If you have questions, feel free to PM me or ask in the main chatter thread. I'll be happy to help you out. Wow, my mail person's super early today. That's kind of crazy. I can hear her up there. Anyway, yeah. And don't forget, if it has to be green. Whatever you're putting in the challenge shed has to be green or have some visibly obvious quantity of green in it. It has to be at least 100 yards, or if it's something that you're sewing, it has to have at least 1/4 yard of fabric involved in it. I did add that. I know I didn't say that on the podcast, but when I was putting that up, I decided to add that because that way it keeps it, excuse me, it keeps it along the lines of the whole knit-along, because sewing is a craft for the knit-along. But if as long as it meets those requirements, that's 1 entry. If it's with my yarn or Fiber Nymph Dye Works, that's 2 entries. And if it's DK weight, that's another entry. So if it's all the must-haves plus mine plus DK weight, that's 3 entries total. The most you can have for any one thing is 3 entries. And literally just post it 3 separate entries, 3 separate posts. That's how you'll get those entries. So, because I'm not counting points. If you just post it 1 time, but it really should be 3, you're only going to get 1 entry. Okay. New things. Oh, first I wanted to mention, I did the drawing for the Stitchberg collection last week from Sarah Jordan. And the winner was number 17, and that was Julia Weesheep. And I have still not heard from you, Julia, so I'm just putting that out there again, that you were the winner of that collection. So please PM me on Ravelry, and I can get you hooked up with that from Sarah. Excuse me, I am like really tickly today for some reason. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew that. If I don't hear from you this week, I'll PM you. Just so that you know that you won. Okay, let's move on to new things. I do have some new things to show you this week. So my new goodies this week come from the Woolly Thistle, which you may have heard from other podcasts because I know a lot of people have been talking about that shop. It's run by Claire, who has the New Hampshire Knits podcast, the audio podcast. She specializes in importing yarns from Great Britain, which is really nice because they're usually things that you can't get readily here in the United States from other shops. So I was actually on there looking for some Jamieson and Smith. I have a whole bunch of Jamieson and Smith in the natural colors. I think there's like 9 or 11 natural colors that I used to make my sheep head hat several years ago, and that hat did not use very much of that yarn at all, so I've got a lot of it left over, and I've thought about using it for other colorwork projects, but it's like, how many colorwork projects do I really need in those same exact colors? So I thought, well, if I added some of their dyed colors, you know, their 4-ply in the dyed colors, or 2-ply jumper weight, sorry, I don't know, these, I could use these in cooperation. They could cooperate with, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say. I can use some of the natural stuff I have and add some color. There we go. So I got these two, I just love them. They're so cute. These two, this one is color number 132 and this one is color number 91. It's just a pretty blue and a nice gold, like a saffron-y kind of gold, I guess. I don't know, is that saffron? Saffron's red, isn't it? That's orangey. Never mind. Ignore saffron. It's just a pretty gold color. So these are the two I got, and so I don't exactly know what pattern I'm going to use yet, although if you've seen the hat, the hat pattern for this year's Shetland Wool Week, it was designed by Gudrun Johnson, who is the patron for this year's Shetland Wool Week, and I believe it was just introduced at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last week. It's a very pretty colorwork hat, and she uses a very bright yellow along with some more neutral colors, and that's kind of, I think, what was in my mind when I was ordering these. So I may end up making something like that. Okay, so I was in the middle of processing the podcast. I had recorded the whole thing, and I was processing it, and I got to this part where I had just been talking about Jamieson and Smith and Gudrun Johnson's pattern, and all of a sudden, the sound and the video totally got discombobulated, and the sound slowed down so that I sounded kind of like Dory from Finding Nemo when she's trying to talk whale. I have no idea what happened. I've never had that happen before. I'm really hoping that the rest of the, I mean, so far everything that I watched as I was processing sounded fine, and hopefully I can redo this last little bit here without an issue. So I'm going to try this again, and this is always discombobulating whenever I have to do this like an hour or so after the fact when I originally recorded. But let me just wrap up what I was talking about with the Woolly Thistle. As I was making my order and I had been communicating with Claire, you know, talking about the yarn and asking if she had stuff in stock, she also offered, wanted to know if I would be interested in something from her shop for a giveaway for the podcast. And I said, absolutely, that would be wonderful. So Claire is offering a $25 gift certificate to her shop, the Woolly Thistle. And I will be starting a thread in the 90% Knitting group. I'm not sure what the prompt will be yet, but please go to that thread and enter once, responding to the prompt that I put in there. And I will do the drawing for her $25 gift certificate on the next regular podcast. I am going to be doing a short shop news podcast later this week, but I'll do the drawing on the next regular podcast, which will be next week sometime. So thank you very much, Claire. That was so sweet of you, and it's very exciting. But even with or without the gift certificate, please head over to the Woolly Thistle. If you love this kind of natural, rustic kind of yarns, you will love what she carries in her shop. She's got some really interesting things that I've not seen elsewhere. So check it out, and good luck if you enter the drawing. Okay, that was everything for 90%. 10%, what was I going to tell you about 10%? I feel like I've moved enough stuff around now that I know I was going to tell you about the fact that, or I did tell you about the fact that we worked on Operation Studio a bit more last weekend. I already talked about that a bit. We did go to the supply yard last weekend. It was so bitterly cold, so we really couldn't do a lot of outside work, but we did get all of the stone that we're going to need to build the wall that we need for the foundation for the building that we're getting. So that happened, and we had a huge load of gravel delivered, so that's in the driveway. It's looking interesting at home, let me tell you. I feel like everywhere in my life right now is just turning into like chaos and disaster, because I mean, I know Bill keeps saying, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Okay, well, we've got eggs everywhere. Believe me, broken eggs. No, but yeah, it's looking a little rough right now, and as we're in the middle of this process, but we did, like I said, we got some supplies, and we did brave the cold Saturday afternoon and broke up about a 44 square foot section of asphalt at the end of the driveway, which is where the building is going to go that we're putting in. And that part of the driveway just needed to be out of the way. It's a long story, but it's what Bill said needed to happen. So we did that. That was interesting. I've never, broken up asphalt before, but now I have, and I can't say that I want to do that for a living, but again, I felt great, and like I couldn't have done it the day before, so I was happy to be out there swinging a sledgehammer and using a digging pole, digging iron. I don't really know what it's called. Digging bar, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, we did that. And then Sunday, because it was so cold and there was too much snow on the ground for us to do anything else anyway up there, we came here and we worked in the basement and continued Project Basement or Operation Basement, or I think everything has an official name at this point. So that's slowly coming together. There's not a whole lot left to do in the basement, but the basement still looks like a disaster area. But it's coming along, so hope is there that it will finish up and things will be put back to rights. I think that's really all I had to say. I probably said a few other things, but like I said, it was an hour or so ago when I did it. So if there was anything else, I'll just include it next time. I'm going to wrap this up now and hope that this is recording correctly this time. I will just say that as far as shop news, thank you to everybody who came out and purchased the pre-orders for the Karamea cowl. That was the collaboration project between Sarah Jordan and myself. I had 20 pre-orders up. There's one left. So if you didn't get one yet and you were still thinking about it, go and grab that last one. It's in the Crochet colorway, the wine colorway. So it was the reddish one. So yep, one left, and the pattern won't be available for 3 months, nor will those colorways of yarn. So if you want it, grab it now. Plus it's at a discount. Otherwise, there will be a shop update on Monday, the 20th at noon, but I am going to do a separate video for the shop preview part of the podcast, and I'll probably do that either Friday or Saturday when I have all of the yarn ready. But that is the first day of spring, and I have a lot of spring colorways for you, including more of the Peeps colorways. So that's everything until I talk to you next time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope if you got hit by all the snow from Stella that you're doing okay and you're warm and dug out by now. And if you didn't get Stella, like we didn't really get Stella too much, then, you're doing okay, I hope. Alrighty, take care. I'll talk to you next week.